This program, Creative Problem Solving, Learning to Think Outside the Box, is brought to you by the Office of Formation and Discipleship within the Archdiocese of Atlanta. Hello and welcome. Thank you for your interest in learning. My name is Bill Clark. I will be the presenter for this program. If you have any questions or desire additional information, you may contact me on my direct line at 404-920-7635 or by email at wclark@archatl.com. Let us open with a prayer. But before we get to the prayer, let me read a quote by Andrew Newberg in his book, How God Changes Your Brain. Meditation and prayer have beneficial effects on our brains, improving concentration and calmness. Brain scanners show that intense prayer and meditation alters our gray matter, strengthening regions that focus the mind and foster compassion while calming those linked to fear and anger. End of quote. So that will set the stage for our prayer. Dear God, thank you for providing us with sound minds and bodies. We ask that you open our minds today and strengthen our intellect so that we can better use these creative gifts in your service. Amen. Let's review the agenda or the learning points for this program. First, what is creativity? Then we'll define creativity, establish a perspective on creativity, discuss some myths or untruths about creativity, acceptance of new ideas, mental blocks to creativity, traits of creative people, left brain versus right brain functioning. Then we'll get into a creative problem solving model, then review a creativity checklist using the acronym SCAMPER, then a creative problem solving techniques discussion, and concluding with a couple of creative exercises. Let's first pose the question, why creativity? Why creativity at this point in time? Well, the world is changing rapidly. Technology now provides tools we never had previously. Technology also, in a peculiar way, threatens to replace intellectual horsepower if we let it by such things as calculators versus learning arithmetic tables, or with Google having unlimited access to all knowledge in the world. Our unique gift as people is our ability to think, to dream, to envision, to create. That's what's really important. That is why we need to have more creativity at this point in time. Let's focus for a second on creativity and you. Creativity is either a natural gift that God provided you when you were born, or it can be a learned process. Either way, you need to be creative, both on the job by getting things done better and faster, and it also helps to differentiate you from your colleagues. And also, we need creativity at home as we try to find balance in our lives and survive by being more creative. Listen up and learn how to develop or enhance your creative skills. Why? This quote answers the question why. If you always think the way you've always thought, you'll always get what you've always got. It's that simple. That's why we need to be more creative. Now let's define creativity from four different perspectives. First, by Mitchell Riggy and Keith Harmeyer in their book Smartstorming. Creativity is generating new ideas and concepts or making connections between ideas where none previously existed. That's one point of view. The second, by Dr. Betty Edwards, in Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Creativity is the ability to find new solutions to a problem or new modes of expression. Thus, it brings into existence something new to the individual and to the culture. A third look at a definition by Albert Einstein in his work Creativity, Design, and Business Performance. Creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. And the fourth perspective, a definition out of Wikipedia, creativity is the ability to generate innovative ideas and manifest them from thought into reality. The process involves original thinking and then producing. So there are different ways to look at creativity, and these were some of them. Let's establish a perspective on creativity. Creativity flourishes in art, music, literature, the sciences, in laboratories, and in research. We expect to see creative people in these areas. However, the need for creativity is everywhere. Creative people are needed everywhere. Perhaps the greatest creative potential is in the minds and experiences of ordinary people who have not attempted to use their natural creative instinct or learn how to be more creative. Now let's look at some myths or untruths about creativity. First is some people think you are born with a creative instinct. You can't learn to be creative. Either you have it or you don't. Secondly, the smarter you are, the more creative you are. Some people think that. Thirdly, the young are more creative than the old. Fourth, creativity is reserved for the flamboyant risk takers. And five, creativity is a solitary, one person, all by themselves act. And number six, you can't manage creativity. It is what it is. Well, all of these statements are not true. Creativity is much more than any of these myths. Creativity involves an ability of a person to accept and be open to new ideas. But many people reject new ideas out of hand simply because they're new. Some think that new ideas threaten the status quo. We love the status quo as people because we are creatures of habit. The key learning point is this: habits and status quo are the adversaries of creativity and creative problem solving. You want to do away with both habits and status quo. Now let's review a few examples of how some people have a difficult time accepting new ideas. The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad. This was said by the president of the Michigan Savings Bank in 1903, advising Henry Ford's attorney not to invest in Ford Motor Company. He did anyway and parlayed $5,000 into $12.5 million. The second example, I think there is a world market for about 5 computers, said by Thomas J. Watson, chairman of IBM in 1943. Wow. The third, that's an amazing invention, but who would ever want to use one of them? Speaking about the telephone, President Rutherford B. Hayes participated in a trial telephone conversation between Washington and Philadelphia in 1876. Next, television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring at a box every night. Who would say something like that? Well, it was Darrell F. Zanuck, the head of 20th Century Fox in 1946. So you can see some pretty powerful people can also have a problem accepting new ideas. Now, let's talk about blocks to creativity. Why aren't we as people more creative than what we are? Well, we're influenced by inhibitors built into us and surrounded by us. We're influenced by the opinion of others. We call these inhibitors mental blocks. Let's cover several of them. Mental block number 1, the right answer. We're taught to think that there's always just one right answer, one way of doing things. Therefore, we're sort of programmed not to look for other ways, perhaps better ways of doing things. Mental block number 2, that's not logical. We're also taught to think logically. Don't go outside the box. It's dangerous out there. Conform. Stay within the box. To illustrate this point, let's do the 9-dot exercise. On a piece of paper, draw these 9 dots just as you see them here. Now, with these dots, try connecting all 9 with only 4 straight lines, all without taking your pen or pencil off the paper. Got it? Go ahead and start. Here is a solution to the 9-dot exercise. The only way to connect all 9 dots with just 4 lines is to go beyond the boundaries of the dots. This is where the saying, thinking outside the box, came from. How did you do? Mental block number 3. We're told to follow the rules. Here are 3 reasons why we should intentionally learn to break the rules. Rules are made based on current conditions, but Conditions change over time, yet we continue to follow the outdated rules. So, get into the habit of not following the rules in order to be more creative. Mental block number 4. We are reminded oftentimes to always be practical. Theory doesn't put bread on the table. That's what they say. Therefore, be practical when in fact you should try being a little impractical to be more creative. Mental block number 5. Having fun is frivolous. Get serious now. The irony is that we get our best ideas when we're having fun. So fun is a good thing when it comes to creativity. Mental block number 6. That's not my area. In other words, the admonition is to stay in your own area. Let them take care of it. It's none of your business. When in fact, there's a need to go outside of your area because that's where you might be able to play an important role in introducing new ideas or concepts. Mental block number 7. Avoid ambiguity. We're admonished to be clear, concise at all times. And the irony is that creativity exists in a world of ambiguity. You need to be able to think differently in order to be creative. Mental block number 8. Don't be foolish. We're all business here. Don't you understand that this is a business? We don't have time for these silly, crazy ideas. So, you really need to be a little foolish in order to be creative. Mental block number 9. To err is wrong. Whatever you do, don't make mistakes. Here again, making mistakes is a part of creativity. You have to learn how to take risks in order to be creative. And finally, mental block number 10, and perhaps one of the most common blocks that many of us have. I'm not creative. I can't even draw a circle. If you continue to tell yourself you're not creative, you won't be creative. You have to open up your mind and allow creativity to come out. Now let's review some key principles of creativity that help us eliminate the mental blocks that we've had. First of all, everyone is creative. Individual creativity comes from the expression of individual authenticity. Team creativity comes from the appreciation and synergistic use of differences within the team. Playfulness increases the likelihood that creativity will occur. And, importantly, the more we believe we are creative, the more creative we will be. Now let's review the traits of creative people. People who are really creative have certain things in common, and we can learn from these traits and begin to emulate them in order to be more creative ourselves. Creative people tend to have courage to try new things and risk failure. They have intuition and logic to help them make decisions and produce ideas. They have a playful nature. Humor and fun are the ultimate creative act, and they enjoy having fun. Expressive minds and willing to share what they feel and think. Creative people have a need to find order in confusion. and discover hidden meaning in information. They have a motivation for accomplishment rather than for reward that comes from accomplishment. They have an ability to find solutions to challenging problems. They have an inquisitiveness to challenge assumptions and ask hard and difficult questions. They have an ability to make connections between old ideas to produce new insights. They have a desire to push the envelope in order to expand the boundaries of thinking. And finally, they have a fascination to test new ideas and compete based on results. If we emulate these traits, we too can be more creative. Let's talk about the functioning of the brain, the left brain versus the right brain. The left brain and right brain are different. The left brain contains our analytical skills, our logic, ability to handle math, science, language, details, our past, knowledge, reality, strategy, and practicality. All things that deal with analytical skills. The right side, the right brain, on the other hand, is where our creativity exists. We have feelings for arts and music and pictures and philosophy and the future and fantasy and possibilities and dreaming. So the brain, in fact, has two sides. One is very logical and one is very creative. Why is the left brain, right brain an issue? Well, we tend to focus most of our time and activity on the left brain. It becomes dominant, more efficient, and easier to use simply because we use it more than the right brain. The right brain is used for creative thinking. Therefore, if we don't do a lot of creative thinking, it becomes weaker, less efficient, and slower. The old adage comes to mind, use it or lose it. So if we don't exercise the right brain more, it will become less efficient and we might lose some of its capabilities. Now let's introduce a concept called creative problem solving, or CPS. Creative problem solving is a proven method or technique that we can use to approach a problem that needs a solution in an imaginative, innovative, and creative way. It's a tool that helps us properly define the problems and create breakthrough ideas and then take action on these ideas. Because an idea is only an idea until it is implemented, then it becomes an action. Let's get into the creative problem solving model. It was created by Alex Osborne way back in 1963. He was the originator of the brainstorming concept, founder of the Creative Education Foundation, and co-founder of a highly successful New York advertising agency, BBD&O, Batten, Barton, Durston, and Osborne. So he had quite a creative background. There are 6 stages within the CPS model. Stage 1 he called mess finding, in which you identify the issue or the problem and state it as well as you possibly can. The second stage is fact finding. You gather data so you can learn more about the issue or the problem. The third stage is problem finding. Clarify the problem as best you can. The fourth stage is idea finding. Generate as many ideas as possible to come up with the best approach. The fifth stage is solution finding. select and strengthen solutions. And the sixth and final stage is acceptance finding. Develop a plan for action to implement the best idea. The theory here behind the model is that if you use these 6 stages in the sequence suggested, you will come up with better, more effective ideas. Let's think about the creative problem solving model in action. It's a model to learn and use to help you become more creative. It's an orderly, staged process that results in more and better ideas and solutions. The key is that it separates the thinking up stage from the judgment stage. Many people fail to come up with effective solutions because they instinctively begin to judge ideas before they're done with the thinking up stage. One way to improve the thinking up phase is to use a creativity checklist. SCAMPER, SCAMPER, is an acronym for idea spurring questions designed to spark your creativity when engaged in creative problem solving. Consider this problem. How can I save money at the grocery store? Well, Scamper, the S stands for substitute. What can I substitute for my usual purchases? C stands for combine. How can I combine purchases to save money? A is adapt. How can I adapt what I'm doing from wiser, more experienced shoppers? M is for magnify. What can I magnify or expand or buy more of to save? P is put to other uses. How can I use other products to save money? E is eliminate. What can I eliminate from my buying that I really don't need? R is for rearrange. How can I change my shopping habits, perhaps on days where they offer better values? Using Scamper, SCAMPER, helps you develop more and better ideas. Creative problem solving techniques are many. We're going to cover just 2 of them. These are proven techniques that do result in more and better ideas. The first is attribute listing, and the second is brainstorming. We'll cover each one. The first creative problem solving technique is called attribute listing. It identifies the unique characteristics of things. The principle is that when you look at an item and break it down into its unique characteristics or attributes, you help to identify possible new uses or solutions that you can use at the moment or store away in your memory for possible future use. It causes you to view items in a totally different light. Instead of looking at something as a whole, you look at it as the sum of all of its parts. An example, what can you make a hole with besides a drill bit? We normally would think about making a hole with a drill. But there are other things that have attributes similar to a drill bit. What are the attributes of a drill bit? What's it like? Well, it's like the attribute of a pencil, or a barbecue skewer, or a baton, or a letter opener. There are other things that have attributes similar to a drill bit that you could use to make a hole. That's what attribute listing is all about. Now let's do an attribute listing exercise. What are the attributes of a flashlight? Think about it. Think about all of the characteristics that comprise this flashlight. Then make a list of all the attributes you can think of. Go ahead, I'll wait. Well, here are some of them that I came up with. Has a durable plastic body, a removable top and bottom, has a screw-like threads inside and out. It has a spring and batteries inside, has a light bulb and a reflector, has a glass protector for the bulb, has an on and off switch on top, and inside it's a tube-like design. Those are some of the attributes. So what I would do is store these attributes in my memory for possible other uses for a flashlight other than providing light. Attribute listing allows you to look at things with new eyes, not as a whole, but as a collection or sum of all of its parts. You can store up these attributes of things in your memory. You can go about collecting attributes by wandering around places like hardware stores and just looking at all the things that they have and all of the attributes that these things have. Or in grocery stores, electronic stores, flea markets, antique stores, wherever your mind suddenly is capturing lots of attributes of things rather than just the thing itself. Then you let your creativity suggest other uses for things, other uses for the attributes of things. For instance, the fork as a weapon, or a butter knife as a screwdriver, or a plastic sandwich bag to store other things, or olive oil as a lubricant, a brick as a paperweight, or a coat hanger as a car door opener. So when you begin to look at things through the eyes of attributes, you see many other uses for common things that are around us every day. The second creative problem solving technique we will cover is brainstorming. It's a technique used to generate lots of ideas. It was created by Alex Osborne, and he established 4 basic rules for brainstorming. Number 1, criticism is ruled out. Do not judge ideas when you hear them. Number 2, freewheeling is welcomed. Let your mind run wild to come up with as many crazy ideas as possible. For instance, there was a brainstorming group that got together out in the Rocky Mountain states to discuss a problem that they had with utility lines high in the mountains. The utility lines would accumulate ice and break, and was very expensive and difficult to go up into the mountains and repair them, especially during really inclement weather. So the group was organized to come up with ways to perhaps solve this problem. Well, they came up with a lot of standard ways, and they were going back and forth with crazy ideas. And finally, one individual said, I tell you what we do. We find a 500-pound canary and we send him up there and let him flap his wings up and down as hard as he can over the lines. That'll break up the ice and he'll fall down and the lines won't break. Everybody laughed at the idea, and suddenly somebody came up and said, Hey, how about let's substitute the canary for a helicopter? And that became the solution ultimately. So what they do now is they fly a helicopter over the lines periodically to make sure that the ice does not accumulate and it breaks down the ice. Therefore, the lines don't get overloaded and break. So, free willing brought about a good potential solution to a serious problem. The third part is quantity is wanted. The more, the merrier. The more ideas you have, the better the idea that you'll come up with a better one. Number four is combination and improvement are sought. Build and expand on ideas that you are here and let your mind run wild in coming up with as many ideas as possible. Those are the four basic rules of brainstorming. Let's talk about the significance of suspended judgment in brainstorming. It's really the key to effective brainstorming. What it is we separate the thinking up phase from the evaluation phase. Brainstorming is intended to think up lots and lots of ideas, but the key is not to evaluate each idea or judge them as you go along. We instinctively tend to judge things when we hear them. We have to learn how to let new ideas trigger more ideas and not premature judging. Prejudice is premature judging. So we can't be prejudiced during the thinking up stage. We wait until it's time to turn off the thinking up stage and then go into the evaluation phase. We now want to do a brainstorming exercise. How many uses can you come up with for a paper clip other than for holding papers together? It's better to do it with a group, but you can do it individually. So take a few minutes and think up as many uses you can think of for a paper clip. I'll wait. Okay, here are some possible uses. A necklace, imitation mini trombone to push the restart button on your router, keeping headphones from getting all tangled up as a bookmark, possible cufflinks to be able to wire something together as an electrical conduction, to pick a lock, to clean your fingernails, to use as a toothpick, to etch in plastic or wood. These are some of the possible uses. Did you have any more than 12 uses? Try the exercise again in a few days after you've studied creativity and see how many more uses you can come up with. Let's summarize what we've covered in this presentation. Everyone can be creative. For some, creativity is an innate skill, like with artists and writers and scientists, inventors, and musicians. For others, creativity is something that can be learned by using creative problem-solving techniques. You need to avoid mental blocks to creativity. We covered 10 of them. Use the creative problem-solving model. Use the tools like attribute listing and brainstorming. Try to think outside the box. In creative problem solving, separate the thinking up phase from the judgment phase. Do not get involved in premature judging or prejudice. You'll do your best creative work when you're having fun. If you have any questions or desire additional information on this topic, contact me, Bill Clark. My direct line is 404-920-7635, or you can reach me by email at wclark@archatl.com. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Also, thank you for your commitment to learning and your devotion to your ministry. Good luck and God bless you.